All right, what we're going to look at doing is doing the isometric view of this triangular prism over here. The first thing that we need to do is to draw what they call an auxiliary view. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to just draw a line out there. It says that that length is 60 millimeters, so I'm going to draw in a 60 millimeter line. Okay, 60 millimeters. Draw a little arc like that. Draw a little arc like that. Take my 60-degree set square, and I will be able to draw in that triangle story, going like that, and going like that. Oh, no, come on. There we go. And there's my triangle. I then need to find the center of that triangle. Let's draw a construction line out there. Draw a line going back to that construction line, 30 degrees, draw a line going there, and draw that line going over there. Right, once I've got that, what I like to do is to say, okay, let's draw a little square base around this thing in construction lines. Well, not square base, so just a rectangular base actually. It won't necessarily be a square. Okay, there we go, okay. And you can see that I've got the lengths of the base of a rectangle here. Now they've given you point A. Note that point A over there. Well, there is point A on my auxiliary view. Once I've got that, I'm going to draw a line coming out like that. I'm going to draw a line coming out like that. And from there, I can say, okay, what is the distance from point A to there? There is that distance over there. Take it across over here, mark it off. Let's call that B over there. All right, so I've got point B. You see the distance from A to B. I then say, well, what is the distance from B to C? Can you see that distance that I'm taking off the auxiliary view? I come over here to A, I mark that off, and I end up with that point C over there. There's point C, and I got that distance from the auxiliary view over there. Right, what is the distance that I need? Well, I can actually draw in a line going from C to B. All right, and if you look over here, that distance over there as a two-dimensional drawing is not the same as this distance that it's going to be on the isometric drawing because it's a non-isometric line. Does that make sense? Right. Okay, once we've got that, I'm going to then try and find this point over here, which is the apex of the story. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come along here. I'm going to draw a line coming out, and it touches this line between AC at that point over there. So I'm going to measure that off from A. I'm going to come along here to A. I'm going to mark that off. And then I'm going to take a line going back over here. I'm then going to take this distance over here to that point, and I'm going to mark that off. Let's call that 0 over there. Okay? And you can see that that point goes up to a certain height. So I'm going to take a line going up from that point, and I'm going to measure off this 60 that they tell you over here. So let's measure 60, mark that off over there, and I have the apex of my triangular pyramid over there. I can now draw a line going from C up to there, and from B up to there. Right? This point over here, I've managed to find B and C. This point over here, let's call it D. Let's see whether I can find that. Taking a line from A across to that corner over there. If I come over here, mark that off. Draw a line going back over here. And I can measure off this distance from there to there. Take that, pop that in there, and you can see that D would be a point over there, okay? Which would mean that I'd have hidden detail going in from there to there, hidden detail going in from there to there, and hidden detail going up to the apex over there. But we can't actually see that in our drawing. If you want to, you're more than welcome to draw in that hidden detail, just to give yourself that impression. But with this section of work, they don't actually insist on hidden detail being drawn on any of these views. So you'd just be wasting your time if you did that hidden detail in an exam. And you'd probably lose marks because they didn't ask for you to do it. So just don't if they don't ask it for it. If you want to do it for this particular exercise, you're more than welcome to.